Fame can magnify personal struggles, and enablers often surround celebrities, making recovery harder. Andy's story is a reminder of how addiction destroys careers, relationships, and reputations. His overdose is not an isolated event. It is the culmination of years of chaos, failed interventions, and public controversies. Andy Dick, Decades of Chaos, Addiction, and Controversy. Andy Dick's recent overdose in Hollywood on December 9, 2025, is only the latest chapter in a long, troubled saga. Witnesses found him unconscious on stairs in Hollywood. Narcan was administered, and his life was saved. For many, this was shocking but not surprising. Andy's struggles with addiction, chaotic relationships, and endless controversies have defined his public image for decades. Andy spoke to TMZ by phone Tuesday night. He tells them he's alive and relieved he's okay, but he wouldn't elaborate on what happened or what drugs he took. Andy Dick's early career and rise to fame. Andy Dick broke into comedy in the early 1990s. He was part of The Ben Stiller Show, which won an Emmy. Andy later starred in news radio, where his quirky style made him a household name. He also appeared in films like Road Trip, Zoolander, and Old School. His talent for eccentric characters made him a fixture in Hollywood comedy. But behind the laughs, Andy was already battling substance abuse. Andy had his own show on MTV called The Andy Dick Show from 2001 until 2002. It was 21 episodes that spanned over 3 seasons. In July and August of 2004, he had another show on MTV called The Assistant. It was a reality TV series that parodied other reality shows such as The Apprentice and The Bachelor. Its 8 episodes originally aired on MTV. It featured Andy Dick's search for a new personal assistant. The beginning of the first episode parodied The Bachelor, with the 12 contestants arriving in limousines, and Dick waiting outside to greet them with his maid and butler. A rose ceremony immediately followed, and one contestant was eliminated. He was on Celebrity Rehab's Sober House, made appearances on talk shows. He's made several guest appearances on several TV shows, as well as movies. Andy Dick's family life. Andy married Ivone Kowalczyk in 1986, though the marriage ended in divorce. The sudden marriage followed a pregnancy, and they welcomed a son named Lucas in 1988. However, the fast-paced relationship got out of control, and their marriage only lasted until 1990. Their relationship, like many aspects of Dick's life, had lots of ups and downs. The couple's separation marked the beginning of a tumultuous personal journey for Andy Dick. Andy and his ex-wife chose to continue to live together to raise their son together, but it didn't work for them. Although the arrangement began on the right foot, it turned into an uncomfortable space after both Dick and his ex-wife entered into new long-term relationships. It was finally time for Dick to move on. He later had a long-term relationship with Lena Sved, with whom he had 2 children, Jacob and Meg. His family life was strained by addiction and controversy. In 2018, Lena Sved obtained a restraining order requiring Andy to stay away from her and their children for 5 years, citing drunken arguments and violent incidents. His children have largely stayed out of the spotlight, though Meg has pursued acting and editing. The restraining order underscored how deeply his addictions damaged his closest relationships. Andy Dick's on again off again fiancée Elisa Jordana. Another complicated figure is Elisa Jordana, who was part of the IP2 network and was Andy's on again off again fiancée. Elisa, a media personality, has spoken openly about Andy's decline. She described him as incapable of rational decisions and claimed he was exploited by vloggers who filmed his chaotic behavior for clicks. Elisa has said that Andy was safer in jail than surrounded by enablers. Her relationship with Andy was marked by love, frustration, and the painful reality that his addictions were bigger than her influence. Andy Dick's bestie Billy John the Enabler. Billy John, who is also from the IP2 network, is a longtime friend who has been criticized for enabling Andy's addictions. We'll get into IP2 some more a little later. Instead of helping Andy break free, Billy often supplies alcohol and drugs, keeping Andy locked in destructive cycles. Their friendship blurred the line between loyalty and sabotage. Billy was always present, but his presence often meant the party continued rather than ending. He showed up on the street during Andy's incident yesterday. Here's what happened next.
Hey, what's up, guys? Andy had a little accident today. I don't even know how to say this, because it's going to change the whole spectrum of my live stream, but Andy's in a better place now, and there was nothing that I could do.
You know what? I'm alive.
Bro, you're supposed to wait until I say bow your heads down.
But I didn't know the camera was not okay. But you need to...
No, bro, you were supposed to...
No, because if I was dead, you would have called the cops.
It did it, yes. Bro.
No. Why? If I was dead, you would have already called the cops and I'd be...
They already came and left.
So that didn't work.
I saved your life.
No.
Yeah.
Andy Dick's weird Whoppy flanker saga. Perhaps the most bizarre chapter came when Andy was taken in by an IP2 streamer known as Whoppy Flanker. After being evicted and beaten in Las Vegas, Andy ended up living in Whoppy's apartment. What followed was disturbing. Andy was featured on 24/7 live streams, seemingly trapped in the home. Reports described Whoppy brandishing a gun during streams, while Andy pleaded, "Don't shoot the gun." Viewers donated money, while Andy's vulnerability was exploited for content. This episode highlighted how Andy's instability made him prey for opportunists who profited off his downfall. By the 2000s, Andy's career was in decline. His scandals overshadowed his comedy. He became more known for arrests than for acting roles. Attempts at comebacks were derailed by relapses and controversies. His reputation in Hollywood shifted from eccentric comedian to cautionary tale. Andy Dick's controversies and arrests. Andy's controversies are extensive. Let's look at just some of them. Andy Dick was banned from venues for inappropriate behavior, faced lawsuits, and restraining orders. Each incident chipped away at his reputation, leaving fans torn between sympathy and exhaustion. In 2008, he was arrested for sexual battery and drug possession. In 2010, he was banned from a comedy club for groping patrons. In 2018, he was charged with sexual battery after allegedly groping a woman. He has been involved in violent altercations, including attacking someone with a chair. He has been arrested multiple times for public intoxication. His live streams, often disturbing, showcased his instability and were exploited by online communities. The Phil Hartman cocaine controversy. One of the darkest allegations tied to Andy Dick involves the death of comedian Phil Hartman in 1998. Hartman, beloved for his work on Saturday Night Live and news radio, was murdered by his wife, Bryn Omdow, who then took her own life. Years later, comedian John Lovitz publicly accused Andy Dick of playing a role in Bryn's relapse. Lovitz claimed that at a Christmas party, Andy gave Bryn cocaine after she had been sober for 10 years. According to Lovitz, this reckless act pushed her off the wagon, reigniting her substance abuse issues. Lovitz confronted Andy years later, saying, "I wouldn't be here if you hadn't given Bryn coke in the first place." Andy has denied responsibility, but the allegation has haunted him. Even if not legally culpable, the suggestion that his behavior indirectly contributed to Hartman's death cemented Andy's image as a toxic presence in Hollywood. This controversy remains one of the most infamous stains on his reputation. Even if indirect, the allegation that Andy gave Bryn Hartman cocaine ties him to one of Hollywood's most tragic stories. Andy Dick's odd IP2 era. The Captain Content RV drama. After Andy was allegedly exploited by Whoppy Flanker, another streamer known as Captain Content stepped in, rescuing Andy from Whoppy's apartment where he had been filmed 24/7. Captain Content brought Andy onto his RV, where Captain also filmed Andy 24/7. But the situation quickly spiraled into more controversy. During one live stream, Andy was accused of sexually assaulting a male streamer named JJ while intoxicated. The incident was broadcast live, sparking outrage and further damaging Andy's reputation. What was meant to be a rescue from Whoppi's exploitation turned into another scandal, showing how Andy's instability made him both victim and perpetrator in the chaotic IP2 ecosystem. The RV drama underscored a recurring theme. Andy's life was no longer private. Every breakdown, every accusation, every relapse was turned into content. Instead of rehabilitation, he was trapped in a cycle of exploitation, humiliation, and controversy. Captain Content RV Assault Drama shows how Andy's instability led to new accusations, even when others claimed to be rescuing him. Sometime later, Andy was picked up in his own RV by another streamer, Chicken Andy, who drove him around while live streaming. Andy, intoxicated and unstable, declared Chicken Andy his boyfriend on stream and repeatedly groped him. The entire episode was broadcast to thousands, turning Andy's legal troubles into entertainment for the stream. This incident highlighted how Andy's downfall was exploited by the IP2 community. Rather than helping him recover, streamers treated his addiction and instability as a spectacle. Casey Content God Bailout. After Andy was arrested at a California campground for sexual battery. Also in 2022, Andy Dick was arrested at a California campground on sexual battery charges. What followed was surreal. Casey Content God, a streamer tied to the IP2 network, bailed Andy out of jail strictly for content. The Casey Content God bailout demonstrates how Andy's addiction was monetized by the IP2 network, turning his suffering into entertainment. Casey's bailout wasn't about friendship or support. It was about views, donations, and viral clips. Andy became a pawn in a content machine that thrived on chaos. Andy Dick, the fallout and inevitable career decline. The Overdose reignited debate about Andy Dick's legacy. Some see him as a tragic figure undone by addiction. Others view him as a man who squandered every chance at redemption. Elisa Jordana insists he is safer in jail than in the company of enablers like Billy John, even though she herself used Andy for content. Let's be honest, she wasn't in love with Andy while she was seeing Captain Content while Andy slept on his RV. Andy's ex-wife Lena Sved and his children have distanced themselves, underscoring the personal toll. Fans mourn the talent that once was, while critics point to the endless controversies that overshadowed his career. Andy Dick's story is not just about one overdose. It is about a comedian whose brilliance was eclipsed by chaos, whose relationships were strained by addiction, and whose legacy now hangs in the balance. His survival this time does not guarantee salvation. His future depends on whether he can finally break free from the cycle of enablers, controversies, and self-destruction. Andy Dick's legacy. Andy Dick's case raises broader questions about Hollywood culture. Fame can magnify personal struggles, and enablers often surround celebrities, making recovery harder. Andy's story is a reminder of how addiction destroys careers, relationships, and reputations. It shows how enablers, whether friends or online communities, can exploit vulnerability rather than help. For decades, Andy Dick was a punchline. His scandals became tabloid fodder. But behind the headlines is a man battling addiction, surrounded by enablers, and caught in a cycle of self-destruction. His overdose is not an isolated event. It is the culmination of years of chaos, failed interventions, and public controversies. The question now is whether Andy Dick can break free. His survival after this overdose gives him another chance. But history suggests that without real change, the cycle will continue. Elisa Jordana's warnings, Billy John's enabling, and Andy's own choices all point to a future that may repeat the past. Andy Dick's story is tragic, chaotic, and controversial. It is a story of talent wasted, relationships strained, and a career overshadowed by addiction. His overdose is just the latest chapter, but it may not be the last. Whether he finds redemption or continues down the same path remains uncertain. If you enjoyed this Andy Dick deep dive, please throw me a thumb. And if you want to see more Life and Times videos of other celebrities, please consider subscribing. Hope to see y'all in the next one.